Hey, thanks everybody for being here for a special witty equity session. And Human's been doing incredible work to bring visibility to many of the injustices going on in Iran in particular. So we're excited to hear, Human, what you've been doing in the murals in Israel, and I'm going to send it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for having me. Thank you for taking time out of your day to hear the story of the work I'm doing in Israel. So back in November of 2022, I helped birth a mural. So on September 16th, 2022, a woman was murdered in Iran. Her name was Mahsa Amini. And Mahsa Amini was ultimately murdered because a little bit of her hair was hanging out of her hijab. She was beaten to death by the morality police. This set off a fuse and an explosion in the hearts and the minds of the women in Iran. And as a result, for the first time in the history of the world, you had a woman-led revolution. And this revolution has almost been going for an entire year now. When this happened, I got a phone call from a woman in LA, and she said, we need to make the Western media pay attention to this. Let's paint murals. And at the time I said, look, I don't paint murals. That's not my thing. She said, that's okay. Just find us a wall in San Francisco. I helped find them a wall, and that's all I did. I helped the organization find a wall. The wall was painted. The mural went up. And I called the artist and I said, hey, let's take a picture in front of that wall. And she said, okay. We took a picture in front of the wall. The picture went viral. One of the people that saw it was a woman named Fleur Hassan. Fleur Hassan just happens to be the vice mayor of Jerusalem. She calls me and says, I want murals in Israel. I want murals in Jerusalem in support of the Iranian women fighting for their freedom. That moment, I'm like, this is a huge opportunity. I said, how do we do this? She said, you have to jump on a plane and meet me face to face. We don't do anything over Zoom, and we don't do anything over phone calls. So I did the 14-hour flight. I'm sitting in her office and I said, do you have a wall? She said, no. I said, do you have an artist? She said, no. I said, am I paying for this? She said, yes. So lo and behold, there I am in Israel, scrambling, worked with the Ministry of the Interior, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and let me take you to where we are today. So this is the first wall in Israel, the first mural. Now, these four women, if you're Persian, you recognize them immediately. And before we get too far into this talk, I just want to tell you, these murals have two purposes. So we're clear. The very first purpose of these murals is to inspire the Persian people to keep fighting. That's what these faces, these names are not only remembered, but they're remembered in the Holy Lands. In the Holy Lands for the whole world. The Jews, the Muslims, the Christians, everyone holds a special place in their heart for the city of Jerusalem. So these four faces, you've got Mahsa Amini, a woman named Serena, a woman named Fereshteh, and a woman named Nika. These two girls on the right here were 15 years old. This is Mahsa. And what you have here is the words woman, life, freedom in Hebrew, Arabic, Farsi, and English. Okay. And in all of the murals, and I'll show you this a little bit better, you've got a woman riding a lion with a sword in her hand, because this is a nod to the fact this is a woman-led revolution. This mural is 21 feet long, it's 15 feet wide, and here we all are on the top there. In the center is the vice mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur. That's me, that's the artist I worked with. Her name is Anna Kogan. This is Emily Schrader. Emily Schrader is the reporter that connected me with Fleur. This was a big deal. And the reason this was a big deal, this first mural, is because at that time, there were 80 murals in the world. And the Islamic regime didn't care at all about any of the murals in the US or Canada or Australia or Europe. But the second you put a mural in the Middle East, especially in Jerusalem, they went crazy. And that mural was shown on television every hour, on the hour, for 3 days. And the Islamic regime was saying, look at this Jewish propaganda. And the satellites were saying, look, the Jews are standing with the people of Iran. So these murals are meant to inspire the Persian people to keep fighting, let them know that anybody who's fallen or in prison is remembered, and two, to show the world that the Jews are standing with the people of Iran. Because I want to remind you, there are no murals in Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia. The only place in the world, in the Middle East, that has murals supporting the Iranian people is Israel. This woman in particular, her name is Fereshteh. She wasn't protesting. She was standing on a rooftop watching the protests happen. And the Islamic regime was coming around with guns and they were just shooting everybody watching. So she was shot just for watching. And 5 days later, this was the image that every Persian in the world saw. This is her daughter crying at her grave, her 5-year-old daughter. Now, you can't look at this without your heart breaking. Everybody's heart breaks. And there was an article written that Fereshteh Ahmadi, that's her right there, she's every Persian's mother at this point. We're all mourning her death like her daughter. And that's why I put Fereshteh in there, because of this image of her daughter crying at her grave. This was all the media that came because it was such a big deal that the unveiling happened in Jerusalem, and this was on January 9th. The second mural that was unveiled was in Nazareth. These 15 people were all murdered by the Islamic regime. And in the left-hand corner, you've got Woman, Life, Freedom in English, Arabic, Farsi, and Hebrew once again. I put all of the names of all of the people murdered here on the left-hand side. This woman in the middle, her name is Ruth Wasserman. She's with the Blue and White Party, and she helps me secure walls and work with the mayors. Here's a better picture of the mural. The mural is 30 feet long, 25 feet wide. And I just want to tell you one thing about this wall. Nazareth is an entirely Arab city within Israel. It's 70% Muslim and 30% Christian, okay? But it's entirely Arab. And this wall is owned by 2 Arab men. And they're 2 Arab men who are Muslim. So the impact honestly, of all the murals I've done, this one's my favorite. Because you have a wall owned by 2 Muslims, painted by a Russian Jew, designed by a Persian Christian. Here are the names and the ages of everyone that was murdered. So this little girl right here was 7. This boy was 9 years old. And I just want to remind you that the Islamic regime, the people that are carrying this, they're heartless. They have no morals. They have no ethics. They're killing children. Here they are. We've remembered 2 of them on this wall. On all of the murals, you've got these 3 images. So a woman riding a lion with a sword in her hand, which I told you about. This is the flag of Jerusalem. Everything points back to the flag of Jerusalem. The flag of Jerusalem is the Lion of Judah outside the Temple Mount. And then here is the original Zoroastrian symbol of Iran, which is a lion holding a sword in its hand with the sun rising in its back. So you've always got these 3 lions together, because at the end of the day, I want to also remind everybody of this. Iran the Persian people have been the friends of the Jews for 3,000 years, and we've only been enemies for less than 50 years. And I don't want 50 years to outweigh 3,000 years. Okay? And this is my way of unifying 3. In all of the murals, you're going to see this. It's time for the Esthers of the world to rise up. Okay? And this is a nod to the woman-led revolution. In Iran, one of the things they do to the women who protest, because they saw killing them wasn't working, is they try to maim them. And they'll take a little gun with a lot of bullets, tiny little bullets, and they'll shoot out the eye of a female protester. This woman's name is Ghazal. She's one of the more famous ones. This woman's name is Nilufar. She was also a woman whose eye was shot out. I found this artist in Budapest, and I asked her if I could basically copy her design. This is what she does for I looked at it as an opportunity to use this idea for people missing an eye. Use the eye of an animal. So I found this to be a very striking image. So in Netanya is the next mural. What you have here is the words "woman, life, freedom," and the bird I used here is the nightingale. The nightingale is the bird of Iran. And once again, you have the words "Esters of the world rise up." And in this one, Netanya is entirely Jewish, so we just decided to go with Hebrew and English in this town. And then Netanya is north of Tel Aviv, and it's a beach town. So we, have the sun setting into the water in the back. And then here's a better picture. And then you've got the symbols once again. And then as far as I could tell, I'm the only mural in all of Netanya that gave a nod to Netanya. This is the seal of Netanya right here. This flower is the water lily, and it's the flower of Iran. The fourth mural in Israel is this one here, and this is also in Netanya. This woman here is Ghazal. I showed you her a little while ago. And what you've got here is the bird of Israel, the hoopoe, covering Ghazal's missing eye. And in the background, so the most disputed piece of real estate in the entire world is called the Temple Mount. And this is where Solomon's temple used to be. And then, Solomon's temple was destroyed in 70 AD. Islam was born around 620 AD. And then the Dome of the Rock and the El Aqsa Mosque now occupy the Temple Mount. And they were built around, I don't know, 670 AD, 680 AD, sometime around there. This is the eastern gate of the Temple Mount, a very significant place for the Christians and the Jews. And we put that in the background in Netanya. We brought Jerusalem to Netanya. And once again, you've got the symbols here. The flag of Jerusalem, the seal, the woman riding the horse, Esters of the world rise up. Okay, so in Iran, I'm going to show you the one mural we did in the United States. We did one in LA, and I want to show you this video really quick here. Watch this video here. Let's see if this will work. Hopefully it'll work. Okay. What are you seeing here? You're seeing 5 girls dance. You're like, what's the big deal? The big deal is these 5 girls are all 15 years old. They're dancing in Tehran. They're showing their hair and they're dancing. So these 5 girls were arrested. And I've heard many reports. I've heard that they were publicly lashed. I heard they went to prison. No one knows exactly what happened to these girls, but they disappeared. There was a video of them apologizing. So this affected every Persian in the world. We all saw this video. Our hearts broke for these 5 young women. And I just felt like they needed to be, acknowledged. So in Iran, what you have is this. This is called Azadi Tower. This is basically like our Eiffel Tower. It means Freedom Tower. And it was built in the 70s. And I'm gonna give you guys a quick Bible lesson here. In the Old Testament, in the Jewish Bible, there's a verse. And this is the verse. It says, this is God speaking. He says, "I will set my throne in Elam and destroy her kings and officials, declares the Lord." Now, virtually no rabbi ever preaches on this verse. No Western Christian preacher or Eastern preacher preaches on this verse. And it's a very confusing verse because over and over in the Bible, you hear God say, "I'm going to set my throne in Jerusalem. I'm going to set my throne in Jerusalem." Over and over, God speaks about Jerusalem, how much he loves Jerusalem. But you've got this one obscure verse, and he's talking about this place called Elam. Well, what is Elam? Before Iran was called Iran, it was called Persia. And before it was called Persia, it was called Elam. And this is what Elam was during the Cyrus, the ancient Persian king who allowed the Jews to go back to Israel and rebuild Solomon's temple. This is where he was from. And the whole book of Esther takes place in this place here, Elam. And then you've got this verse. I will set my throne in Elam. So at the very least, God is saying, hey, I'm going to have two thrones, one in Jerusalem and one in Iran. And so in response to those 5 girls dancing in that Bible verse, in the history of the Persians, the Jews, this is the mural I made in downtown LA. And what you have is a future scene of these 5 girls dancing in front of Azadi Tower with tens of thousands of people cheering them on and a DJ. You've got, it's time for the Esthers of the world to rise up. I will set my throne in Elam. Woman, life, freedom in Farsi, English, and Hebrew. And so where are we at today? Well, September 16th is coming up. It's coming up fast. And I'm going to do something on September 16th. But in response to all of these murals, the Islamic regime made a mural of their own. And this is basically where I'm going to end, where we can open it up to Q&A after this. But they made and I just want to remind you, the Islamic regime does not care about the murals in the US or Canada or Australia or Europe. But there are now 4 murals in Israel. 4. You saw the 4. And so 1 month after my 4th mural, the Islamic regime made a mural like this. And this is a mural of an atomic bomb. And they put this all over Tehran. And you're looking at it saying, wait, do I see Hebrew on that mural? And the answer is yes, you do see Hebrew. You're saying, what does that say in Hebrew? What are they saying? This is what they're saying. 400 seconds to Tel Aviv. This is Iran's response to the 4 murals in Israel. This atomic bomb. So let me stop sharing here, and then I'll just end by saying this. This September 16th is a big deal. In Judaism, those of you who aren't Jewish, I'm not Jewish, the 1-year memorial of someone's passing is a big deal. And in the Persian culture, it's also a big deal. You remember the 1 year. So Mahsa Amini was murdered on September 16th. And that fortunately and unfortunately falls during the high holidays of the Jews, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, all around that time. So I can't do anything on September 16th in Israel. But what I'm going to do is unveil 3 murals on September 12th, 13th, and 14th. And I'm going to describe to you what they are. I have them ready, but I don't want to show them to you yet because I want them to be a big surprise in Israel. In Haifa, Tel Aviv, and Jerusalem, we're going to unveil an AI image of Mahsa Amini's face. And that image is going to be turned into a mosaic. And the mosaic is going to be made up of 7,000 squares. And in each square, you're going to have the face of a Persian man or woman who's either been murdered or put in prison. And so when you look closely, you're going to see the faces of 1,020 people. And when you look far, you're going to see Mahsa Amini's face. So that's where I'm at right now. And, you know, just like everyone, so up to this point, I've been funding all this myself. And, you know, I'm going to keep going until I finish all 18 murals in Israel. So thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Human. And we wanted to support Human and put this event through Witty, and Human's a good friend of mine, so that we could all just kind of help him socialize the story and this Fundly link that I put in the chat. And we'll send out the video to the recording to everybody, just, you know, so if you have communities you may be able to share this with that would want to support it in any way, we'd appreciate it. But I'd just love to open it up for questions if anybody has any questions or comments or anything they'd like to share, because I know that was pretty deep. Manny, go for it.
Yeah, I first of all, Human, these are gorgeous. I've seen a few of them, not in person yet, though I hope to do that too. But they're awesome, and congratulations to you. This is just such an amazing project you've been working on over the time I've known you, and it's glad to be a part of this and to see what you're doing with it. I have a question for you. I guess putting your political scientist hat on for a second. I saw this week that Iran is being admitted to the BRIC, what do you call it? Alliance. I don't know what it is. It's an informal group of economies, which has grown quite big. They're admitting a lot of new members, but the interesting thing that I was thinking about, and that some of the press pointed out, was how this rogue state that we as America had fought for a long time to sort of put in sort of a bubble of its own, is making all of these connections around the world. And I'm curious, Iran is it's a very advanced, developed state, and they're very smart. They've clearly played that card well to gain some recognition around the world and to make alliances around the world. How are these other countries looking at the human rights situation in Iran? And does this even register on anybody else's radar besides America and Israel?
Okay, listen, you brought up a huge topic, and I'll do my best to answer it succinctly, but the BRICS thing is one issue, and it's something I can address, but I think the bigger overarching issue is the fact that in the past year, the American government in total has given the Islamic regime $9 billion. So with that $9 billion that has in the past year has been given to the Islamic regime, and this new alliance with BRICS, I mean, you're looking at China, who brought this group of nations together. So of course they don't care about human rights at all. And then their number 2 lieutenant is Russia. So I mean, of course they don't care about human rights. And then you have to understand, it's been proven by the most liberal media and the most conservative media that Iran builds the drones for the Russians to attack the Ukrainians, right? I mean, we all know this to be true. And you have to ask yourself, all right, this country has all these human rights violations. Are they really going to use the $9 billion that the US has handed them to help the people? Or are they going to use this $9 billion to attack Israel and attack Ukraine? I mean, I think the answer is obvious, right? So BRICS is a huge issue. It's a huge problem. It's something that is not getting the attention it deserves. And what do those 6 or 7 countries that are part of BRICS control? What is it, like 60% of the oil in the world, or 70% of the oil in the world? That's also a huge issue. And if the way that oil is traded, it's no longer with the American dollar, and all of a sudden becomes the Chinese yen, well, that's going to affect America in a big way, isn't it? I think it's all bad. I don't think there's anything good about this. But I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you everything that I've read and seen. And Iran, their human rights violations is probably worse than any other country in the world. I want to remind you all of one other thing. Iran is the #1 sponsor of terrorism for the whole world. Whenever a consulate blows up in like Ethiopia or Lebanon or wherever, it's the Persians that pay for that 100% of the time.
Totally. And Human, sorry, Manny, give me 1 sec. Lisa has to leave, but I know she wanted to make a comment. Lisa, please chime in.
Yeah, Human, thank you so much. I mean, this is tremendous. I just want to share with everyone else on the call. I knew that I wasn't being invited to this just because I'm a great gal. I knew that this was going to be an opportunity for fundraising. So before I did this call, I put together a list of some people that I do a lot of charitable work globally. And I just wanted, this might help all of you reach out to your network. One of which is that if you know people that are involved in ACLU, this is something that I think that they'd be very interested in, even making to them a nominal donation. So if you've got people in your network there. Also, when I happened to mention this, because I start my day with Europe, so I'm on the phone with London almost every day at 4 a.m. And so I also have a list of maybe 10 or so people in London that are involved in the arts. That I'm also sending the GoToFundMe link. So thank you, Human, for providing that. And then also, I'm in the South, so most people are idiots here. I'm not meaning the person in Austin, but I mean, this is probably not something that people that I do animal rescue with here in the state. But I also have a decent list of about 14 people that are on the East Coast that I've worked with in regards to disaster relief, because frankly, this is a disaster. I mean, and you know, this is in Iran, I understand right now, but as girls, I mean, this affects all of us, and frankly, it affects all people. So I just want to share that with the group, just to encourage you to where if you do have a network of people that you can reach out to, these are the people that I went through my list before this call today that I think would be very interested in helping in a monetary way, because frankly, that's probably easy for most people to write a check. But anyhow, that's why I just wanted to jump in real quick because I've got to get on another call. David and Human, thank you so much for inviting me to this.
Thank you.
This is very worthwhile, and I wish you well. I wish we weren't having to have this conversation or that you're having to do murals, but unfortunately, this is not going to go away anytime soon. So thank you, David. Thank you for calling on me, and excuse me, everyone, for jumping in. But this is really important. I think your network, at least some of the organizations that I mentioned, might be useful.
Thank you,
We
Lisa.
appreciate that, Lisa. Thank you. Manny, please continue. Paul, sorry about that.
Well, I think Lisa just hit the nail on the head. You know, ultimately what my question was leading towards was, you know, as I said at the end, who besides America and Israel even cares, and how do we get people to care, right? So one of the ways is, as Lisa's saying, we need to spread the word and get people who do care about humanity to take a look at this and do what they can in whatever way they can, both supporting these murals and beyond. And I guess part of my question is really, what is that beyond? What is the goal of these murals? We're raising awareness, which is great. And we're raising awareness within the communities that are already inclined to do something about it. America, Israel, other maybe democratic places. You know, what can we do as individuals and through our networks to help stop this, you know, this condition from getting worse, right? From there being another one, and, you know, more women who are harmed in Iran or Afghanistan, or, you know, and I'm not trying to put them all together in one bucket, but, you know, it's tragic and we all want to act. And, you know, I think the murals are phenomenal and want to support that. And then looking beyond, you said 18. So once you get to 18, then what, right? What do we all do to keep this alive and hopefully bring about change?
Yeah, you do bring up a lot of good points there. I do want to share with you one quick story. When I first got to Israel, you know, people were talking and they're like, oh, Human's going to Israel. And I got a phone call the second I landed. This is before the first mural went up. And this woman from the Bay Area, Persian lady, calls me and says, what are you doing in Israel? Why are you there? And I said, well, I'm working on a project. And this woman was infuriated. She's infuriated that I would even set foot in the land of Israel. And she says, I'm so anti-Israel. I'm so anti the state of Israel. I can't believe you're there. I can't believe you're visiting that country. And she's screaming at me for about a minute. And I said, listen, hold on. I go, I just landed. I haven't met with anybody. I said, if this project actually comes together, I will call you back and you can yell at me for 1 hour and I won't say anything. I'll just let you yell. And she's like, well, I just want you to know I'm very pro-Palestinian and I'm very against what you're doing. I don't even know what it is, but I'm against it. She hung up. So the mural goes up, right? January 9th, January 10th, you know, I'm a person of my word. I call her back and I said, hey, the mural's up. If you want to yell at me, you can. I'm ready. And she's silent for 45 seconds. I thought the woman had hung up. She says, I can't believe how beautiful that mural is. I cannot believe the Jews are standing with the people of Iran. I can't believe the Jews are supporting the women of Iran. I'm listening to this woman process everything she's seeing for 3 or 4 minutes. And after 4 minutes, she says, why am I so angry? Why am I yelling at you? And she says, I'm sorry for yelling at you. Thank you for doing the mural. She hung up. I haven't heard from her since. That same story has happened 100 times with each mural. And I can make an argument right now that these murals fight anti-Semitism more than anything else in the world right now in this moment. Because I was even in I was in Ethiopia earlier in the year. And I was in a bus full of Saudi women, covered head to toe. I could only see their eyes, but they were talking to me the whole, because they knew I was from Iran. And they just kept asking me all these questions. And even the Saudi women, who are the most orthodox for the Muslim faith, they couldn't stop expressing how wrong it was for Mahsa Amini to be beat up for having a little bit of her hair out of her hijab. And when everyone, because look, the Muslims claim Jerusalem, the Christians claim Jerusalem, the Jews, they're all claiming Jerusalem. And when the murals are there in Jerusalem, everyone's eyes are open. They see it. They don't see it when it's in Kansas City. They don't see it when it's in Toronto, but they see it when it's in Israel. So, does anyone else have any other questions or thoughts? Sorry, I keep talking so much.
Those are great stories. I'm going to stop recording now. So then, Carolyn, wait, let me just stop recording.